Okay, so before we can dive into the history of the Middle East, we need to better understand the geography of the region. What is the Middle East? What is Arabia? And what is the Muslim world? The three terms can be used, often they're used interchangeably, but they have distinct meanings. So we'll start with the Middle East. It's a loosely defined region that typically encompasses Southwest Asia, especially the Arabian Peninsula, as well as the Levant, and it often includes Turkey, Iran, and North Africa, and sometimes it will also include Afghanistan and Pakistan, as well as Central Asia. We also have Arabia. The term Arab is also another loosely defined term. In its more broad sense, it can refer to the Arab speaking world, and in its more narrow sense, it refers specifically to Arabia and the Arabian Peninsula. Looking at the geography of the Arabian Peninsula, we have, of course, the Arabian Desert with various parts, such as the Rub al Khali, or Empty Quarter, known for its inhospitable land. The Arabian Desert is the largest desert in Asia. We have the Syrian Desert as well to the north, and as far as water, it's a peninsula, so it's surrounded by the Red Sea to the west, to the south, the Gulf of Aden, and to the east, it's surrounded by the Persian Gulf. And Arabia includes modern day the UAE, United Arab Emirates, as well as Yemen, Oman, and of course Saudi Arabia. It's also home to Mecca and Medina, of course. Mecca was a trading outpost, it was an oasis. And then during the Muslim period, after the Muslim conquest, Baghdad would become the center of the Islamic world. Um, if we also have Isfahan, which would become important later on, around 1100, during the time of the Seljuk Turks in Iran, not in Arabia. And then west of all that, we have the Levant. So the Levant, it refers to rising. It comes from the French word lever, which means to rise, and it refers to the sunrise in the east in regards to the Mediterraneans and to the Europeans. And it encompasses modern day Israel and Palestine, Jordan, as well as Syria and Lebanon, and often Cyprus as well. If we can turn back the clock a little bit from the Muslim world back to antiquity, we have what is referred to as, you've probably heard of the Fertile Crescent, and it's the place where agrarian societies first began to emerge. We have Mesopotamia as well as the Levant, and it forms, of course, a crescent shape. Mesopotamia means the land between the two rivers, those two rivers being, of course, the Tigris and the Euphrates, which would both empty out into the Persian Gulf, and it's separated to the northeast by the Zagros Mountains. To the north, we have the Caucasus, separating the Black Sea from the Caspian Sea. And then in Egypt, we have yet more deserts. We have the Nubian Desert to the south, of course, and we have the Libyan Desert to the west, and the Eastern Desert in Egypt itself. And the capital of Egypt, it wouldn't have been Cairo, but it would have been Thebes. Lastly, I'll touch briefly on the Islamic world as a whole, and it refers, of course, to a religion, Islam, which encompasses about a fifth of the world's population. And of course, it can change over time because it's not a physically defined place. It refers to a group of people. And so, yeah, throughout the course, we'll be looking at um, places as far as Spain, and then, of course, the Middle East, but also India as well. And eventually, we'll be getting into sub Saharan Africa as well as Southeast Asia. History doesn't happen in a vacuum, so we'll also have to be looking at the Greeks and the Romans as well as the Mongols. So we can end this video talking about two fun facts. So first off, anytime you hear Tel in front of something, it means like a hill or mound. So Tel Aviv, Tel, there's some different examples, but and then the second fact is, during the Silk Road, of course, the Middle East was important for trade, both on land and at sea. Um, and especially on land, the caravans would travel through the desert, connecting China through the Silk Road to Europe and to other places as well. And one thing specifically with Persia was that China would get their blue, cobalt blue or Persian blue, or sometimes it's even called Chinese blue. They would get the pigment from Persia, but the pottery in the Middle East was pretty. I don't want to say dull, but yeah, for lack of a better term, it was, we'll just say, utilitarian. And the Chinese were making really fine pottery and porcelain and fine china, and so they would use their blue and white pigments, and they inspired the Middle Eastern pottery and fine china. The Middle East, they would either import fine china from China or they would make their own kind of based off that. And then, of course, they influenced Europe as well, most notably with chinoiserie, or what we would call today maybe Chinese or Oriental inspired pottery, but also Delftware. If you're familiar with Dutch porcelain, the Delftware, the blue and white uh, Dutch porcelains, those were they certainly the Dutch made it their own, but the blue and white they got the idea from the Chinese. So if you have any different opinions or ideas, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I hope you found this video informative and useful. Thank you.